Disney's daytime talk show is finally declaring it out loud. The View does not understand Americans. But they're not the only Disney stars to have come across in a very negative way towards the US of A. Anthony Mackie walking back comments on Captain America. Disney, you need to get your red, white, and blue figured out soon.
You think? Well, it's hard to tell at this table because no one voted for it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel, where we, as ever, endeavor to explain entertainment, keeping you ahead of the culture curve. It is what we do. Thanks for joining us, folks. It's always a joy to spend time with you, and we never, ever forget that everything we do is only possible when you come and join us for a video. Thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. Folks, it's out of that Park Place. Anthony Mackie walks back comments on Captain America, but stops short of saying he represents America. Now, we're not going to go into this too much. I just want to say, predicted it, clean up, I'll marvel. Anthony Mackie, of course, yesterday had said that Captain America represents many things. America is not one of them. He was mocked roundly for it. Probably at least $100 million cost to Disney for that, because how many people have just decided they're not going to go see Captain Un-American? Many of them. But you know, Disney is having all kinds of troubles with this whole America thing. They don't agree with what's happening in America. They don't like the vast majority of Americans, I believe, but they want to be seen as somewhat pro-America. Let me tell you something that's distinctly not American. This right here, the legacy media. And Disney, you know, I don't know if this reporter works for them, but Disney's majorly part of the legacy media. But astounding. Reporters at the RFK Jr. hearing have pre-written negative headlines. You gotta love it. And it's just out in the open, and they don't know. They don't know that people are going to take pictures of this now. So pre-written negative RFK headlines. It's already ready to go. All right, so let's get to the story here. And of course, Anthony Mackie is a story all to itself. We'll cover it on the Pro Show even more. But The View, man. I mean, ladies, The View is struggling. And The View is struggling because they just don't understand Americans. They're in such a bubble. So how do you connect with an audience that isn't connected to anything you believe? All right, well, here's what we've got. Julia is commenting on this one over at Jules31415. Fetterman, imagine this, a Democrat. Fetterman tells the vapid co-host of The View that Trump's New York case was politically motivated, that wouldn't otherwise have been prosecuted if it was someone else. And Sonny Hostin's head just about explodes. Just so you know, okay, so The View, as we've said so many times, The View is Disney daytime talk show. Disney daytime talk show, and what does it deal with? Mostly politics. Politics and celebrities. The View is so far to the left that when they have a Democrat politician on their show, they can't agree with the politician. They can't agree with the Democrat because the Democrat is actually farther to the middle than the ladies of The View. The ladies whose job it is to put their best foot forward for the House of Mouse, for Disney. All right, here's the clip. We'll play it, and then we'll get into the big one where The View, so don't go anywhere. We're going to get to the clip in just a minute where The View, they just come out and say, we don't understand Americans. Like, we don't understand them. We don't get it. We don't know what's going on. Here's the first one.
January 6th rioters on his first day back in office is still reverberating. And when we last spoke with you in December, you were critical of Joe Biden having just pardoned his son, Hunter. So although President Trump ran on doing this, there was a discrepancy, and a lot of people in his inner circle said he wouldn't do it for violent offenders.
I just want to say congratulations to Fetterman, because my wife would not let me go out in public dressed as casually as he is, and yet he's on The View. I mean, I know it was at the inauguration he was still dressed this way, but, you know, the guy has achieved something. I'm not sure it's worthy of praise, but the hoodie, man, he's done. Maybe one day when all of the politicians wear hoodies and the kids think that hoodies are uncool, we can all thank Mr. Fetterman for having done that.
So there was some surprise in what he ended up doing.
Of course not. I'm on record criticizing going after Hunter Biden. And I also agreed that the trial in this city, in New York, was politically motivated, that wouldn't otherwise have been prosecuted if it was someone else. And I've been very front and center in pardons. I chaired that process in Pennsylvania. I was all about delivering second chances, and I was very proud of that. And I think that's really the cornerstone of criminal justice reform is if you are following the rules and you've paid your debt.
Everybody take a look. Sunny Hostin is just to the right of Fetterman. That woman looks as if she could shoot lasers out of her eyes like Cyclops. John Fetterman would be he'd be toast. He'd be crispy toast. A crispy toast inside a black hoodie. If Sunny Hostin could just get to that man with her metaphoric laser eyes.
I do believe you do. I do believe there needs to be a path for redemption. And this process, whether Joe Biden or whether President Trump, I don't agree with many of those pardons, especially on the J6 ones. And I've called that out. I've been on record saying that that's just not true. If you're going to abuse the process, somebody that's been very committed as part of that, has made that part of my career. I think it's sad because it's been politicized. And I think, if anything, that might have set some things back because people assume now, depending on what team's in office, those are the people that get some redemption.
I just for clarification.
Oh, Sonny. Oh, Sonny, you don't like that, do you, Sonny? No. Sonny is far, 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 far to the left of typical Democrat politicians. She's out there.
Did you mean that the 34 count case in which Donald Trump was found guilty of various financial crimes was...
And we all know it'll be overturned. You know it'll be overturned. I know it'll be overturned. Sonny knows it'll be overturned. Fetterman knows it'll be overturned. Everybody knows it's going to be overturned because it's crazy. It's full-blown 100% back cuss crazy.
Politically motivated here in New York?
I found that when the judicial system gets weaponized and targeted political enemies for political gain, I think that's inappropriate, and I think that degrades our collective trust in this a very important institution, whether that's on a Democratic going after a Republican or a Republican going after a Democratic one. And I like to think I call it strikes and balls because the judicial system has to remain impartial.
So that is what we would call a rather middle of the road response from a man, by the way, who he's out of Pennsylvania, right? He's out of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania went to Trump. And he's smart enough to know, hey, I got to be in the middle here. I got to have common sense. I got to speak like the average 80% of the people in the country believe what Fetterman just said. 80%. Sunny Hostin can't handle it, but that's because The View is out there in wacko land. Now, how far out there in wacko land is The View? Well, we're going to play this, and it's going to start off with ABC News, which, again, that's Disney. That's Disney News, and, well, they're out there in wacko world. But The View is going to come back out after this and say they don't understand Americans. And I applaud the fact that we finally got this on the record from The View itself, them saying they don't understand Americans, because finally we can say from the mouth of definitely not babes that Disney is putting forth a message from women who are inoculated from the truth, from reality, from what's really going on. They live inside a bubble. They don't understand the audience. They don't understand the constituencies of the United States. They are disconnected from everything except their elitist views. Here's the video. Here's where The View admits that they're out there isolated. They don't understand the humanity around them.
Is this what we will see every single day, ending in what the president has promised is millions and millions being deported?
Yes. But you're going to see the numbers steadily increase, the number of arrests nationwide as we open up the aperture.
The estimates of perhaps those who have been convicted or arrested in the past, 700,000 to over 1 million. So after you do that, then you go after everybody who is there illegally.
If you're in the country illegally, you're on the table.
The acting Homeland Security Secretary said in a statement, criminals will no longer be able to hide in America's schools and churches to avoid arrest. What criminals are hiding in schools?
How many MS-13 members are the age?
Did you notice the clip? Did you see the cut there that ABC News made? Do you wonder why there was a cut there? Do you wonder what he said in between the cut? Let's play it again. And by the way, what the quote is about here is that if you have someone who is violent hiding in a place that they're trying to use artificially as sanctuary. So let's say that you go do something heinous and awful, and then you go hide in a church. You can't do that. Let's say that you go, and by the way, a church can be, something can be declared a church that isn't really operating as a church. Let's say that you're a student in a school and you do something heinous, and then you're in the school. That's not going to work. The police are going to come get you. Like if you go and you harm someone, and 30 minutes later you go to your school and you're in there in your classroom, it doesn't work. They're going to come get you. Like you're not allowed to do that. That's not going to work anymore. So that's what the quote is about. I want you to pay attention though. Pay attention to the cutaway to the clip and just wonder what it was he said when they made the cut.
To avoid arrest. What criminals are hiding in schools?
How many MS-13 members are the age of 14 to 17? Many of them.
So, is this the immigration system fix that people had in mind when they voted?
Yes. Yes, yes. Yes, 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 yes. 10,000 times over, yes. Are there examples of people who could get caught up in this that I hope do not? Yes, and I'll give you an example. I'm aware of someone who many, many, many years ago, decades ago, was brought into the United States against their will. And as part of being here, they've been here since they were a child, but they don't have the status, right, that you would need. And there may be efforts happening to fix that. Legal efforts to fix that. Doing it the right way after someone else did something wrong that victimized this individual. And so that person's taking the right steps to fix this situation. So you wouldn't want someone like that who in good faith was put into a precarious situation and is trying to fix something now. You would not want to be in a situation where that individual is mistreated or is treated poorly. And I don't think that anybody expects that to happen. I don't think the Trump administration is going to do that. But this idea that, that the American public did not vote for what they voted for is crazy. Yes, Americans voted for violent people to be removed if they're not citizens here. Yes, yes, that's what Americans voted for. I'm not going to tell you if I support it or if I'm against it, or I'm just telling you that's what they voted for. Whoopee.
Do you think?
Well, it's hard to tell at this table because no one voted for it. But I think if you were, I don't know yet. It's kind of, it's disturbing what we're seeing, and the headlines and all the coverage would make you think that there's this massive deportation. But by numbers, contextually, President Obama still remains the deporter in chief, even if Trump.
By the way, what I think Disney is doing is they've decided that this lady, she's going to become the cynic of the left. She's not going to be conservative. She's not going to be right-leaning. To whatever degree these ladies are actors, some of them are actors. Her job is to be the cynic of the left, I believe, because she's changed all of a sudden after the election. Like, they're not going to bring on a real conservative. They're not going to bring on a real Trump supporter, but she can be a cynic. And so that's what she's doing. If she was an actual Trump supporter, they just get out the wiffle bats, right?
Continues at this rate, he will not even hit what President Obama hit in 1 year with 400,000. But the point here is that it's meant to be a PR campaign. So it's meant to scare people.
By the way, you can tell that she's a cynic of the left, but not truly a Trump supporter by the little yellow ribbon and the light blue jacket. I don't need to go further than that. You just know that that's what's happening here.
That's what they're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And when you look at these flights where they are deporting people back to their origin nation, we don't know who they are. And that's where I'd like to see more transparency. If indeed, right now, everyone on these flights is a violent criminal, I think we can all agree everyone thinks they should leave the country. We were saying that this morning. It's common sense. But what we're not getting is a breakdown of who these people are. On the first day of Trump's presidency, DHS, there was a press release.
By the way, you didn't get that under the Obama administration either. You didn't.
And they said that they had nabbed more than 300 illegal migrant criminals. including 1 attempted murder and 1 child molester. But what about the other 298? What was their crime? Because I think either you own the fact that these are all violent criminals and break down who these people are, what their crime was, and tell the American people, or tell us what they really are and let us have a healthy debate over the disagreement of how this is being carried out. Because
bottom line, though, is that she, at the very beginning of her commentary, and I don't take great issue with it, at the beginning of her commentary, she said, "We don't understand Americans. We didn't vote for Trump." Well, you're not a single one of them did. That's why they cannot understand this. So let me help out, okay? I'll briefly step into this and just say, of those other people who were deported, along with the ones who were violent and did these awful, horrible, terrible things and don't need to ever return to our country, the other people, what did they do? Well, let me throw out what I strongly believe most of those people did. I think most of those people were housing or abetting or permitting or enabling the violent criminals, and that they were caught up in this as people who were abetting or enabling or empowering the violent criminals. So these are associates who they may not have been caught doing these horrible things, but they were permitting these people to do horrible things in whatever way, and they were illegally here, and therefore you're both going. I think very strongly that's what the vast majority of the others are getting pulled into and taken out. That's what's happening. Bottom line, though, the view is, they're admitting they don't have anyone, even though they now have cynics, or people playing the part of the cynic. They don't have anybody who gets Americans because they don't have anybody who voted for Trump. There's not a single person on there who voted for Trump. By the way, that's how Disney and the legacy media are getting into situations like with the Anthony Mackie thing again. How did they get in this situation? Because they don't understand Americans. They don't like what Americans have decided to do. President Trump, you can like him, you can dislike him, whatever your position is. It doesn't change the fact that right now he has the highest approval ratings per polling that we've ever seen the man have. He's a very popular president right now. Now, you can dislike that. You have every right in the world. You have every prerogative to dislike it. But it is reality. And if you're the legacy media, if you're the corporate news media, if you're the corporate entertainment company, that is Disney, and you need to be really, really careful, and it might behoove you at this point to hire people who could at least understand the majority of Americans. That might help. Having emptied out, if you go and look, it's like 99% of journalists are, I would even call them classically liberal. They're leftists. 99% of journalists, right? You go look at the political contributions of the Walt Disney Company and their employees. It's in excess of 90% went to the Democrat Party. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a Democrat, right? I'm not going to pass some sort of moral judgment on anybody for being any, Democrat, Republican, Independent. You be what you want to be. But if you're a company and 90% of your employees or more are affiliated with one political side, then what that does is it creates this monolithic view inside your company, and you cannot relate to the broader spectrum of society. Like, that's gone. You don't have relatability to reality. That's a huge problem if you're a corporation. The danger, of course, is that if you become so monolithic in the way that you're constituted via your employees and your contractors, et cetera, if you become so askewed that you can't understand the majority of your nation that you're surrounded by, then you can't properly place yourself going forward to make wise decisions that would accommodate the vast majority of consumers. And then you're headed for all kinds of horrible headwinds. This is why, by the way, you should not inoculate yourself as a person. You should not put yourself into any bubble. You should not solely surround yourself with people who are conservative. You should not solely surround yourself with people who are classically liberal. You should not solely surround yourself with people of a leftist view or anything else. Now, I'm not telling you to be highly associated and friends with unhinged individuals, but people who can be reasonable. Try to surround yourself with a variety, a potpourri, if you will, of people, simply because It's intellectually stimulating to be around people with different views so long as they're reasonable. You don't have to agree with them, but it also gives you insight into what's going on in the world around you. And so when things happen, things that you may disagree with, you can understand why it's happening. And then you might completely disagree with it. You might vehemently disagree with it. But at least then, having talked with people who are behind it, you'll know how to articulate yourself and perhaps convey a way for the world to go in the direction that you think is better and best. That's by the way, that's what the role of entertainment once upon a time was. The role of entertainment was, for a century or more, to be a neutral ground. It was a place for people to come together and set aside their partisan differences for a time being. Think about the Super Bowl, for example. Now, the Super Bowl is it's heavily damaged this year because people think that it's a what would you say, a charade, right? It's a farce to get Taylor Swift on the screen. I'm not going to go there. But what I will say is, think about the Super Bowl. Decades. People, it didn't matter if you were liberal, it didn't matter if you were conservative, none of that mattered. Everybody watched the Super Bowl. And when you went to a Super Bowl party, you didn't sit down and talk politics. You talked about what the best dip was for the nachos and who had the best wings, right? And then you talked about the Super Bowl commercials because you could sit down and be friends with people across the aisle because you could set that aside for a little bit. Now, I know that politics has become more brazen and intrusive, and that there are really big issues that divide people in a way that maybe we didn't have to deal with in the 70s or 80s, more the 80s. But we've got to get back to a point in time where and this is the fault of the left. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. It is the fault of the left. Corporate media went far to the left. They chased China, and they got rid of every conservative voice they possibly could. And that's a problem, and it needs to be remedied. So here's a way that you could help Anthony Mackie not say stupid things anymore. At Marvel, you could bring back conservative voices. I know you got rid of Perlmutter, but, find another conservative. You need that. You need it. You need dissenting voices inside your company to tell you when you're wrong. You want to know how to help The View not be stupid anymore? Find 2 legitimate Trump-supporting ladies. Put them on The View with those other women. And don't interrupt them and harp on them and treat them like piñatas, but let them actually voice their opinion. They'll lose some arguments, they'll win some arguments. Do it. Your ratings will soar. But they don't want to, because Disney is part of la resistance. But that is not going to work. Being part of the resistance is going to be is like being part of the legacy media. It's not going to work anymore. It's not going to drive the ratings because the new media has conquered. And how did the new media conquer? By being meritorious, by allowing different viewpoints to be put out into society, into the digital town square where people can make up their minds on their own as to what they believe. One of the reasons that Joe Rogan has been so successful is because Joe Rogan will bring people from a variety, a huge spectrum of beliefs, and he listens. He asks probing questions, and he knows the audience will figure out what they believe on their own. That's what we try to do here. It's not always easy, by the way. We make every effort to get people who disagree to come on the show. They won't do it. It is very difficult to get people who are reasonable but who disagree to come on the show because, well, there's that issue of they could be wrong. They could be proven wrong, but we're willing to be proven wrong as well. That's why we open that invitation out to those who disagree. Just very, very hard to get them to agree to come on. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that those who disagree often are part of the belief system in power and power alone. Truth doesn't matter. It's all about narrative. And because so many have been swept up in that postmodern message, they're not interested in putting their ideas and ideals out onto the marketplace because they don't care about whether or not their ideas and ideals are valuable. They care about assigning the value to them of their own authoritarian desire, because you have to believe what they say simply because it is the way to be on the right side of history for them. Power and power alone. Well, we don't buy it. In fact, we believe in the truth with a capital T. And if Disney wants to get back to good ratings, they need to put conservatives back on The View with a capital V. It doesn't deserve a capital, does it? No. All right, folks. The question now is, do we deserve it? A like Click it if you want to do a big service for the channel. Also, share, subscribe, click it and stick it to the algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts on this afternoon's video. Tonight, we're going to be doing a special pro show, 10 p.m. Eastern, where we'll be talking about Spider-Man, the Disney animated show that is accused of being incredibly, crazily woke. We'll tell you if it's real, if it's a joke, what's going on. Join us for the pro show Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. We'd love to have you there. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
If you spoke up against Trump January 7th, 2021, but you were there now applauding him like a trained seal, Donald Trump has not changed.
Wilton, what are you doing?
Well, word on the street is the culture war has officially made it to the doorstep of that Park Place. And I realized Jonas has no one there who loves him. So I thought I should go and protect them.
Yeah, okay. You know, that's not, how you do this, right?
Do what? Fight? Don't worry, Floral. I will not be intimidated by a criminal threat.
Threat? Wilton, don't be ridiculous.
What does it matter to me? I have only one life to lose.
I mean, I totally expected you to die walking into traffic, but,
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Okay, just stop. This is just nonsense. You already have one of the easiest and most effective tools and weapons at your fingertips.
My axe?
No. The truth. Stay smart and ready to tell and share the truth by keeping up to date with WDW Pro, that Park Place, as well as Valiant Renegade. Don't
And
do...
Jonas? I mean, he does things with Vash, and that's not very reassuring. That's like putting two helpless chipmunks into a piranha pond.
That's neither true nor accurate. Unlike the team from that Park Place.
Sue me.
Ugh.